Welcome to Only Ghosts in the Building. This is your host, Emily Claire. We sat down with Maureen, Gina, and Andy from Diamond State Ghost Investigators. This was an amazing, just a fun interview. It was so cool. We ended up actually talking for 4 hours, even though I only recorded a little over two. So look out for part 2 coming after. I was having a bit of a morning. I forgot my laptop. Again, we're having this clicking issue because of some faulty equipment. Thank you for listening. We talk about a bunch of different places. 4 of the main places that we talk about: Bellevue Hall, Fort Delaware, Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, and the Samuel Miller Mansion. This is very much a sit down and chat about everything. It was a little loosey-goosey. We went all over the place. Stick around for the second episode because we kind of circle back at a couple of points, but I didn't want to just throw a huge 2-hour episode at you all at once. So we will see you soon. All right, so we're here and it is DSGI. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
I guess I'll go first.
Yeah, because you're the leader.
I'm the leader. So I'm Gina Dunham. I'm the president of DSGI. I joined the team in 2009 when we were under our old team name of Delaware Ghost Hunters. And that was actually Delaware Ghost Hunters came about in 2005. So when I joined the team, there was 4 people, maybe 5 people on the group at that time. And then it wasn't until 2012 that we rebranded and our logo, thanks to Andy, to Diamond State Ghost Investigators. So I've been on a team. I think I am the only team member that's been on the team since 2009.
Well, technically your son.
Yeah, well, yeah. All the other team members have since long gone, but Maureen's she's the second longest.
We're the elders.
We're the elders.
Not in age.
Not in age, because there's some people
Just in
more
length
older than us, but
length of.
You weirdos.
Go ahead, Mo.
And I'm Maureen. Lips, everybody calls me Mo. I've been on since 2010. I joined so the second year of doing
The rebrand.
Fort Delaware. So I'm the second longest.
Mm-hmm.
That's my claim to be. I'm the treasurer.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we do have a board.
Yeah, I'm Andy. I'm the vice president because I told them I wasn't going to do anything else but be the vice president. I joined in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an artist as my job, and I was actually doing the Brandywine Arts Festival, and I saw a guy 2 booths down from me had a Delaware Ghost Hunter shirt, and I was like, what the heck is that? Because I'd seen Ghost Hunters, which is how I figured you could do this stuff.
Yeah.
And I went and talked to him, and he goes, oh, they're doing a thing at Fort Delaware, and that was probably 2010.
Mm-hmm.
So the second year. And I went out and I was like, oh my God, I did it a couple of years and I'm like, I got to get in this group.
Mm-hmm.
And I joined and they kept me waiting for days, do the interview process. I was like, oh my God, my wife's like, I go, no, God, I hope I get in. And they're like, oh yeah, you got in. And I'm like, great. My wife says, good, change the logo. I was like, I've been in the group 8 seconds. I gotta do something, to be in there a little while.
So what did you do before that?
What do you mean?
Well, he's an artist.
You're a graphic artist?
I was a freelance illustrator. And
Freelance
painter.
illustrator. And did you work for yourself?
Yeah, I
so
worked
you
for
didn't
myself.
really do anything.
After college, I got a job at a t-shirt factory to, design a t-shirt. So, and my wife thought it was funny. We'd be at the beach or whatever. We just walk around and I go, yeah, I did that shirt. I did that shirt. I did that shirt. I did that. But I only worked there 9 months and I went out on my own.
Oh, okay.
And, I had a job for 4 years in there for a while. It was funny. It was a freelance job. It started doing a job for Connects. Those they're almost like Legos, but they're
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I had this big job for them, and I was working 18 hours a day, and I was fried. And I finished it, and then I was like, I got to do something loose, and I just picked up some paints and started sloppy painting or whatever, which I loved. And they offered me a job. They're like, oh, we'd like to give you a job. And I'm like, the company that I did the Connect through. And I said, doing what? And they're like, whatever you want. I'm like, whatever I want. It was the best job in 4 years. I literally just drew the whole time, whatever. I'm like, draw whatever. We're going to have this job. You can draw that. When we don't have a job for you to do, you can just draw whatever. I'm like, I can sit there with my feet on the table. Like,
That's
it's
awesome.
the greatest job in the world. But
And how about you, Gina?
I'm a nurse.
Oh, good. Okay.
Actually, I had just started my nursing career when I joined the team. So for me, I've worked in long-term care, and I don't now, but when I did, I worked with a lot of hospice patients. Mm-hmm. And so for me, giving someone who's at the end of their life the dignity that they deserve was very important to me. And it was important. I really did like working with hospice, and it was hard. I mean, you definitely get attached to your patients, and but just, knowing that for me personally, that I could do something to make their passing a little easier for them was really important to me. And I think that's kind of what drives me towards the paranormal as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I've been looking at doulas.
Death doulas.
And end-of-life doulas.
Yeah.
And I am a little hesitant about taking that step because I'm not sure how I'd react.
It's hard. It's definitely hard. I think one of the most profound moments for me as a nurse, one of my participants, residents, she was an older woman, right? She was probably in her early 90s when she passed away. And I was in the room with her, with the hospice nurse, and we were having a discussion. We knew she was close to passing, and we were having this discussion, like, do we call the family in now? She just had a daughter, so we're like, do we call the daughter? Do we have her wait a little bit? Like, we just didn't know what to do. And in our discussion, we turned around and realized she wasn't breathing. And there was no respirations. And so we went over to her, and the hospice nurse I didn't have my stethoscope. She handed me her stethoscope. And she said to me, I want you to listen to see if you hear her heart. So I listened. Heart obviously is a muscle. And even though she had no respirations, I listened literally to her heart stop. Wow. And it was like, holy crap. Like, I just literally heard her heart stop. And I'll never forget that moment.
now she works at a bank.
No, I don't.
That'd be the end of it for me. What?
I know. So, but that was like a really profound moment for me. And so I was glad to, and then of course, I had to call her daughter, and it was a peaceful passing. I mean, she didn't suffer, but it was just like, it's important to be there for people in their time of need. And that is definitely the case with people in the paranormal, especially if you're not familiar with the paranormal and you feel like you have something going on in your house. People reach out to us all the time. Like, we have this going on, or we think we have this going on at their house. Usually it involves kids. And a lot of times they don't maybe necessarily want an investigation. They just need somebody to listen to them. And hear what they have to say.
I think that's one of the reasons we're doing this podcast, because we're not getting into the spooky ooky aspect of it.
We did the Black Eyed Kids,
music.
but
there is some negative and downside portion, but a lot of people are afraid to talk about their experiences.
Oh, God.
Absolutely.
And we're hoping that this gets to people that say, oh, okay, we've been talking with people in person that have said, oh, I've had this happen, this happened. And they really never talked about it because they think people will think they're crazy.
Well, we get at the fort. We'll have a group of people. We'll see things happen, and we'll see a figure moving across, and everybody's freaked out. And then we all get together at the end. Everybody have an experience, and they all sit there like, they're going to make fun of me. We're like, you all paid to do this. Everyone, this is what you were hoping for. And now they're like, I can't talk about this. Like, I'm nuts.
This is the actual safe space to talk about it.
Yes. We're all go to the store and talk to people. Here, everybody wants to know.
Absolutely.
But they're afraid.
So with nursing, you have to obviously have some compassion and empathy and be there for people in their worst time of their life. And then, the paranormal field's kind of the same way when clients are approaching you, they are at their people. People, and they're scared to, legitimately scared to death. Yes. And you have to be that calm, reassuring person. And that's, I think, that's where I come from.
How about you, Mo?
I was a middle school teacher for 20 years. I left for
Oh, bless your heart.
personal reasons. I mean, I'm not quite old enough to officially retire, but I don't do that anymore. And thank you, yes. And that kind of coincided with my parents are elderly, and they need a lot. They're fine, but they also have medical things. So it kind of blended into me starting to take them places, and then my sister got sick. She had breast cancer for the last 3.5 years, and she passed last month. So I kind of went through just what Gina was talking about, end of life, and it was kind of fast. It was a little faster than we expected, but
How many team members do you have now?
16.
Yeah.
16, and they do different things, different specialties, or like different.
Professionally, you mean?
No,
As a-
I mean
No.
as far as.
Oh,
yeah. Well, I mean, we have
yes and
people
no.
that like
We have a couple
we're on the
of-
board, and we have like somebody who does media stuff,
Mhm.
and we have
Because we're a nonprofit organization. We have our
Andy's our
501(c)(3). We have to have a board. So, I'm the president, Angie's vice president, Maureen's our treasurer, and
Jeff is our video.
Kyle's
Jeff
our
from last night.
secretary.
Yeah.
Jeff and Trey are.
there are video
Yeah,
specialists.
Jeff and Trey.
Yeah.
Met them. They're
Yeah,
really nice.
so Jeff always does the filming and all that kind
Yeah,
of stuff.
Jeff shoots our promos. Trey's an investigator on the team.
We have
And
somebody who's our
my son Matt's on the team. He does our website.
yeah
Andy does our, the
drone footage.
yeah. Matt does our drone footage.
So
Yeah.
this is all voluntary
Yeah.
work.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we do have people like Andy's an artist.
Mhm.
I mean, specialties. We have
Mhm.
Do you
Chris-
have any psychics on?
we have some.
Yes.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
on
Debbie
membership.
on our team, we didn't really know she was a psychic
No,
because
she
we didn't
doesn't.
we didn't
advertise
actively
it.
recruit
Right.
psychics,
Right.
right? Because that was always a thing from Delaware Ghost Hunter days. Like we just never actively recruited psychics.
Well, usually, I mean, in my
Not for
experience,
not anything
Yeah.
bad. We
the
just
psychics that kind of like broadcast
didn't. Yeah,
are not really
We've
Yeah.
met some
Yeah.
that.
who you're interested in.
right.
Right.
Yeah,
And Debbie doesn't broadcast it. I mean,
No.
she was on the team.
for a
I
while.
mean, it was like 3/4 of the way through the Fort season,
Mhm.
and I was
she
like, "Wait, you're sensitive?"
Yeah, we never knew.
And I can
Yeah.
say for Debbie, she's done private readings. She did a private reading on me. She didn't know anything about my family or my parents or where I grew up, and she brought up stuff that was like mind blowing.
know.
She
Right.
did not know. I mean, my dad passed away in 2013, and she did my reading probably 2020 or somewhere around there, and she described my father in his appearance to a T. And just other things that she brought up, and watching her do her readings is very interesting because you can tell she's really feeling that emotion, and if she feels if that person died from a painful death, she can tell you like she feels that pain, like she takes on that energy. And she also read my husband, who she knew nothing about his family and was spot on. So we use Debbie as she's great for like if we're going to do a private investigation somewheres. Usually we break down in a smaller group, right? Because you don't need 16 people trouncing through your house. It's a small 1,600-foot house. So we'll pick, like 4 or 5 team members might go. And if it's an older house, like we did an older house in Delaware City, and it's, obviously it's on the grounds of Fort DuPont, which is a very historical location. We sent Debbie early, like
she
the day
didn't
before.
actually go on.
Yeah, she didn't actually
couldn't
attend the
come
investigation,
to the
right.
investigation, but she went. a few
So we
days
just had her
before.
meet the owners, and without any knowledge, just walk through the house. And
You did a dead files.
yeah, and she took
wrote
exactly.
everything down
She took
for
notes.
us.
Yep, didn't tell us any information.
and we read it after.
We we did the
That's
investigation,
interesting.
Yeah.
did our evidence review, and we looked. Deb had sent us her notes, and then we looked at her notes compared to what we found, and it was like holy
and also the
crap.
history of that particular building, it matched up.
Yes.
We also do it the opposite. Like we'll do a walkthrough for an investigation. So like if the 3 of us are doing an investigation, we get the information. Oh, we see a woman walk through here. We see this. We see that. We hear this. Blah blah blah. And then Debbie will come on the investigation. We send her in first. And then she comes out and I go, what?
Yeah.
And she tells us it's exactly what we already know. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
And sometimes we just
do you
take
do
the
it?
team,
Yeah.
if there's
Holy
like
cow.
5 of us and 3 of us will know the history, the other 2
Yeah.
don't. And then at the end, when we do our evidence review, we try to see if what we've captured, if you will, matches up with the history. So
Yeah, I think the history part of it is important.
it's extremely
Absolutely.
important.
And
Okay.
we're kind of torn as to know the history before or
I don't want to because I do have that sensitivity. I'm not like an amazing psychic or anything, but I do get certain hits of stuff. And I don't want to know when I walk in because I want to have that validation.
Right.
So I'm like, Mom, you got to do the research and don't tell me.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a
Oh,
great
yeah.
way to do it. That's
Yeah.
a great way. And
Right.
that's like we said, that's what we often do
Yeah.
with police.
Yeah, because I don't like actually the first time I went to Fort Delaware with these guys, I got an EVP of a name. Like I was by myself, and I asked questions, didn't hear anything. When I replayed the tape, I got a name, and I would tell people, this is where I got a name, but I wouldn't tell them what the name was because I didn't want them all running. Oh, I heard that name. I heard that name. I
Yeah.
heard.
right.
Until 10 years later, probably, I told the little old man at the very last tour of the season, he's like, "Can I ask what the name was?" And I'm like, "Well, he's not going to run around telling anybody." He's, you know, and I told him, and he goes, "I was here last year, and I have the same name on my recorder." And then, which was funny because the tour guide who was with us, he goes, "Dude, we got that name last night on the other side of that wall."
Oh my God.
I was like, but I never told anybody because I don't want them going, "Oh yeah, I heard that name and I saw Lady in the Blue Dress." Yeah, I saw a Lady in the Blue Dress.
But I think your mind will hear
Yes,
what you
it
want
will,
to hear
exactly.
Absolutely.
and have that preconceived.
There's actually a thing I just saw it yesterday. There's like 2 words, 2 phrases like green bubble, red apple, something stupid.
Yeah.
And
Whatever
this
one you're
noise will
reading.
play, and whatever you're reading, that's what you hear.
Yeah.
And you can pick either one, and I'm like, I don't understand how this works.
It's like visual paranoia.
But it's so weird.
But it's audio.
But
It's
that's I
audio,
think that's the same thing. If you tell people what, then they're gonna go, yeah, that's
Yeah, that's what I heard.
That's not
It's kind of like listening to, a song on the radio, and you hear those words, and you're thinking they're singing about a horse running through a
There's a
field.
bathroom on the right.
And, what it actually is something different.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know.
Absolutely.
Now that I use Amazon Music, I'm like, oh, I've been singing this song
Oh,
for
yeah.
over 20 years.
There's
All
a
the
comedian that
lyrics,
does
yeah.
that.
I
He
was-
does his whole routine is on
Yes.
lyrics that you think
Yeah,
are.
Yeah.
I think that
You
right.
think this
one
is what
thing
the-
and it's something
Right.
totally different. Changes the whole song.
Oh, yeah.
sometimes. Whoa! Especially in the '60s, their songs are more explicit now, but you kind of code the words.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you're like, ooh, I know what they're
Nobody's-
talking about. I
Nobody
didn't realize
still
it at the
nobody knows
time.
what Hotel California's about.
Oh, I know, right?
Nobody knows. I'll tell you, they're like,
Yeah.
How about what's the one, Miss America Pie?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was another one that's like.
A lot of
people are
70s
forgetting
songs
who-
were hidden messages.
Yep.
And you didn't even need to play them backwards.
yeah, no,
Right.
Paul is dead. No, he's not.
Some of them, yes, yeah, Paul is dead. Oh yeah, that was a big one. So who actually requests the most investigations from you? The personal residents, or do you have businesses?
I don't know
or-
if we have one.
I think we get more personal
Yeah.
requests, but some of them, actually a good number of them, like they will call, "Oh, I got this, my house is haunted, blah, 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 blah." As soon as we call back, they're like, "Oh, you want to come and investigate?" Yeah, well, yeah. They're like, "Yeah, no, I don't. It's like they're too afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And
why
it
did you
comes in
call us? I don't
waves.
know.
It does comes in ways.
It
Oh,
comes
yeah.
in waves. Like we'll get a whole bunch of requests and we'll
Right
be
after
busy,
October.
and then we won't be busy.
You
You
think
know,
that
so it's
corresponds to like how all the ghost shows get released on TV.
probably that.
I think
and
we
Halloween
get
time.
Yeah.
Halloween. People think ghosts come out closer to Halloween, but we do get. Unfortunately, you have to weed out what is someone legitimately calling, and when they've maybe taken too much of a different substance and thinking they're saying what they're saying. We
get
have a lot of
those.
that.
When you see Paul McCartney show
Yeah.
up in your,
So honestly, I
but
mean,
he's still alive, so.
Wait a minute, he can't be. He's dead.
we had a person that kept calling
No.
what we call our ghost line. It's our phone number on our website. And they kept calling and leaving messages and wanting to.
I thought that lady was coming down.
I know. I heard
yeah,
it too.
I heard it. Yeah, there's nobody
it's-
up there.
Around.
No, there's a ghost in the they're getting a
It
beer.
sounded like it was coming over that
Yeah,
way.
yeah, I heard it over there.
But we had somebody call us, and he kept calling and calling, with all these different claims. So Debbie on our team's our case manager. So I asked her to reach out, and she has a list of questions like you guys have, and we go through it
Specifically to weed out.
to weed out.
Mm-hmm.
And when she called, she identified who she was, and for whatever reason, he said that he thought she was the police.
Yeah.
He had to clear the line because they were looking for his
Wife
wife.
is
Like it just got
missing,
more
and we're like,
bizarre
what?
as it
Yeah.
went, and so that was the last we
Aren't you
ever
with the
heard of him.
police? We're like, no, you
Yeah,
called the
but
ghost
yeah.
line.
Yeah, so we do get some really
Yeah.
off the wall calls.
Yeah, but that's mostly personal, and then how about businesses, like the haunted?
Yeah, I
like,
mean businesses.
not
Bellevue, funny enough, is obviously part of Delaware State Parks, and
Mm-hmm.
they had the reason they reached out to us initially was because the staff felt like there was something like they just felt uncomfortable upstairs in the attic, and so they asked us to come because they knew of us from Fort Delaware. So they're like, "Can you guys come investigate? We're really interested in what you find up in the attic." And then that's when the EVP was caught down in the basement of the no. So from there we started doing the public investigations for them. But
We did more. We did like the whole month of January.
yeah, we
And it was like right after I first joined, so it was probably 2011.
But yeah, we've investigated Krabby Dick's in Delaware City.
Right.
We've investigated,
I used to go
Delaware
all the
trading.
time.
yeah,
Delaware
Krabby
Bay
Dick's.
trading down.
What was now? I think it's I don't even know. It's the old Sterling building in Delaware City. I don't even know what it's called now. It's isn't it like a museum or something? They made it into something different. We've
Yeah, I don't know what
investigated
it is.
Is
there.
it like not the one they made into it like a little
It's
bed
like-
and breakfast?
It's
Just
like
on
a
the
angled.
corner?
It's like a
Yeah,
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 right
there,
at the
that's-
end.
Yeah, I don't know. There was like a bird rescue
something
thing or
in
something in there
there.
now, and now there's I don't know what it is now.
But yeah,
Dover Air Force.
we've done Dover Air Force Base.
I want to go there.
So Fort DuPont, back in there,
Oh.
there used to be a mental hospital back there. Is that? Do you ever go back? in
So
there?
that's part of Governor Bacon.
Yes.
Yeah, that part is closed down.
I was there as a volunteer when I was 16. My girlfriend's mother was a nurse there, and she would go, and she said, "Well, come and volunteer." And I went once, and it was
That was
okay,
enough.
that was enough.
That's
Yeah,
a hard job.
We
Oh
didn't.
my God,
We haven't investigated the hospital, but a couple buildings up from that is the Painter Building, which was a very surprising investigation.
That's where the screen.
That's where we
So
got
that
the
screen we
screen
played the other
at
night.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bellevue. That's on our website. But that used to be that was barracks. During World War II, it was used for various things. But that once became like I guess you could say, a hospital for kids who were mentally challenged, kind of like a Penhurst, not to that degree, but kind of that idea that you could drop your child off there, we would take care of them, and then parents never really got the opportunity to go visit their child, and
Yeah.
some pretty horrific things
So
happen there.
Farnhurst was another, right?
What?
The one on 13.
Yeah.
Farnhurst, which is
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, I don't
it's the
Was that
big,
in your book?
No.
How did you find that?
because it was a mental hospital for years.
You
and
just knew
still
of it.
is. I just knew. I mean, I grew up in the area, and we used to
I've
tell each
heard of
other,
it.
"Oh,
Is
they're
it
going
still
to send
there?
you to Farnhurst." Yeah, it's part of Delaware State
Yeah.
Hospitals now.
Oh.
And
Oh.
there is actually a graveyard in the back where patients got buried, but no one
No
heard more.
workers.
And so there was a group that came in and started identifying and
Oh,
found
okay.
persons.
Yeah,
I
no,
read about
never
it.
gone
But
there.
yeah, that was, and that's really an old building. So if you're coming out of Wilmington, if you want to get on 95, I think it's on the right hand side. It's a big,
I think
big
I know.
building. then there's a Wawa after that. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can't say one location more than others had access to
would you?
investigate.
Is there any place where you wouldn't go that you would just think it's no?
Anything
it's too
that they
much?
tell us that we think it's a demon, we go, no.
Yeah, we don't deal with
We know-
demonic
we know
stuff.
someone who does that, but-
There's a team in Delaware that's what they do.
Yeah.
That's their
We've
role.
never run into
But
anything.
I can't
No.
say we have honestly.
I mean, just negative entities.
I
but
mean-
not
I mean, sometimes it's like
demons.
negative.
No.
not demons.
Honestly, I think the
Sometimes
only time
there's-
we've ever had anything negative was Trans-Allegheny.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
never
and
even
that's
say
just
that
human
was
negative. It's
Yeah.
just
Well,
like
Christy got scratched,
Yeah,
bad
but I
people
think
or
but that was,
I
that,
think
well,
that
that's
was
what I'm saying,
more
that's the only thing
let's
we've,
get your attention.
yeah,
type
that's
thing.
the only
Right.
thing we've had that,
yeah. I mean, bad people in life, and maybe they're
Yeah.
haunting, and
I
they're
think
still
but we've
The
never
Miller,
had.
Samuel Miller, the
Exactly.
guy in the basement,
Right.
or
Yeah.
the two
That.
guys that we ran
and
into. Yeah,
we that kind of thing. But like, you gotta
Yeah, but
just go
nothing
into
is-
it like they can't do anything to me. So
yeah.
you know, you can interact, but they can't really do anything to hurt you.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
never been threatened, we've never had any of that.
We get occasionally we'll get somebody will reach out to us and in an email, and they'll put certain words in there that I won't respond to them
Yeah.
because it doesn't sit right with me, and I know from talking to our friends at this other team that's what they do. Like I know from my experiences of just talking with them, kind of what to engage in and what not to, like red flag words, I guess you could say. And so when I see that, I call them. I call their lead and go, "Hey, I have this case. I'm going to hand it over to you." And a lot of times they'll get back to me and they'll go, "It was a good thing you guys handed that over because there is demonic stuff in there." But also, sadly, people who are under the influence of substance, when they're in the moment of their high or whatever they're going through, they can hallucinate, they can have delusions, and sometimes things are misunderstood to be demonic when actually it's more of a mental health crisis because of what they're experiencing in the moment of whatever
It's a fine
substance.
line.
Yeah, it's a fine line.
And I also think that, not that I personally, here's my personal, I haven't dealt with anything demonic. I'm not religious, so I don't necessarily believe in the demons. You know what I mean? But I know that there are creepy things that you don't want to mess with, and I
Right.
think those things either get attached to those people having the mental health crisis, or they're more open to that negative side.
Absolutely negative.
Yeah.
When you're in a negative frame of mind,
Yes.
you're going to attract negative energy. Whatever energy you give off, you're going to get back, and
Like-
sometimes it comes
like
back at you
attracts like,
tenfold.
right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which I think that was, I mean, you've read Daryl's book. So that to me, with him bringing something home with him, like, and
Then not talking about it.
well, yeah, that was ridiculous. Daryl, that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
You got to tell your wife.
Yeah. No.
But I think that one went after him because he was the strongest of them. Like he's that.
Yeah. I mean,
big man.
he and I have had those conversations.
Yeah.
That back then, he was a younger investigator and probably thought, nothing was going to
Right.
attach to him, and it did. I personally don't open myself. Like I would love to have a paranormal experience that I actually see a full body apparition walk through the room. Like I would love that opportunity.
Right.
But has it happened? I've been doing it for like 16 years. No, but I don't also open myself up really. There's times like when we walk into Fort Delaware, that not so much not in October, but we go over as a group overnight. We spend one night overnight at Fort Delaware in the summertime. And it's kind of our night to kick back and relax and have fun, but we investigate. And there's some nights I've walked in there and go, you can feel the energy. It's going to be an active night. And I swear to God, because I believe that whatever energy is in Fort Delaware knows who we are. We usually do our overnight early June, and it's really our officially first time back to the fort after closing it down for the season. So I think sometimes I'm like, do they think, oh, here they are,
Yeah, here
let's
they
get
are.
them. And so, sometimes you walk in there and you can feel the energy, and sometimes you walk in there and the birds are,
Oh, yeah.
singing, and it's all good, sun shining.
So
but
they're
then,
on vacation. That
yeah,
day.
and so you're like, it's going to be quiet. But I'm telling you, sometimes later in the night, it's like
You're walking into
there's a
static.
switch. You just feel this
Yeah.
switch of an
Static.
environment, like last overnight.
There was a movie out with called The Other. Was it
The Others.
Oh, The Others.
Nicole Kidman?
With Nicole Kidman.
Yes.
Oh, another great movie. I keep waiting. I
I
can't
know,
find it.
and I keep
A good
thinking about
movie.
this. Are they looking at us?
Yes.
The Other?
Exactly.
Little kids
And
going,
they-
"Oh,
Yeah.
go survive."
Yeah.
Wow, look at those people
I mean,
are back
even
again.
They're all dressed the same.
to we were talking about Daryl when he came to the fort with us in October, and he was talking to the group, and he's like, "How do we know they don't think we're the ghosts?"
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm like, "That's true.
That's
I mean,
why I
we're
always,
the oddballs."
I don't like the question, do you know that you're dead? I'm like, what if they don't?
Yeah.
Right.
Then, like, what if someone said that to me? Do you know you're dead? Yeah, I'm dead. What?
Yeah,
I hate that question.
yeah.
That's a
'Cause
little
I
abrasive.
mean, now see, this goes into like science and stuff we just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Is it like, do you die into another dimension? Are you on another plane of existence?
Yes.
Is what we're experiencing at Fort Delaware, like, is there some sort of, because we think of time as a straight line, but
It's
it really
not.
isn't. And is it just like some, the veil, like they call it, but is it just some sort of thin, are we just bleeding into each other at that point? And, what
just a
is
different
it? And
time
that's
running at the same.
and we don't have I think there's something like that going on, and we just don't have the science yet. We
Yeah.
don't know what it is yet.
Right.
We don't have the
I don't know that
tools,
we
and we
ever
haven't
will.
figured out.
Right.
Yeah, maybe not.
It's like
what's going on?
in the Haunting of Hill House, the recent one, where the broken neck lady.
Yeah.
with the-
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
like that, and you
That
get that
scene.
whole like,
Yeah.
yeah, ooh, I've got chills on that one.
Did you ever go back and watch it? There's a thing
About
where
all the
you can
ghosts.
see
Yes.
where the ghosts
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
Then you go back and you watch it again. I'm
Yep.
like, dang, you can see the guy standing right there. He's like,
Yeah, he's like in the clock.
when he
he's
opens
still
that
in
thing
the
and there's
clock,
guys looking
yeah.
back
Yeah.
at him. I never saw that.
Yeah, that's a crazy one too. But that's kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I fully believe in the like it's like a bunch of pieces of papers.
Yeah, just overlapping. In some
Overlapping.
places
Yeah.
there's a hole, and that's where you.
So I heard an explanation someone give us, like, when you die, there's like a cloud, but you have lives. You have, there's, if you believe that you've lived in and believe in karma or whatever, where you are living different lives, but you're living in them simultaneously, because to us, time exists in a linear fashion, but on the other side, in whatever realm that is,
It's
you
it's
don't.
all at once. Yeah.
So, and we can't comprehend that. And they said, well, you come down and you're this person, but you're also this person as you're trying to have soul contracts to live your fullest experiences. So maybe one life you're a serial killer, and the next you're a nun.
You.
So
Maybe.
so that you can understand, ultimately what.
The full
I don't
range
know.
of
That's
everything.
this is all theory, of course, because
Right.
nobody can tell us.
Well,
But the other is that you have the ability afterwards to come back to places. You're not there all the time,
Right.
so you can come in and out
Right.
at will. And then there's what's attached to people coming in that may be showing up as well. And how does that? And then angels, how does that fit into everything?
Black-eyed children.
Children. I know, right?
Like
deja vu. How do you explain deja vu?
exactly.
These are the-
Because
These
you
are
know
the-
what's coming. You're like, I've seen this. I've been here.
Yeah.
You know about it, and you
And
know it's
that's-
coming. How do you explain
They
that?
said that's a past life
Have I already been
experience.
right? Have I already
Right.
been, or am I living 20
Yeah.
minutes in the future? I just don't
Right.
know. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then how can psychics work? I mean,
Yeah.
how
Right,
does that
how
work?
does that work?
Yeah.
That's the whole thing that
I think
we
everybody
know
has.
the answers to.
But I think everybody has that level of psychicness. It's just a matter of opening
Of
those
how
things
to
up.
use,
Yeah.
like, you don't
Getting
know
it
how to use
open.
Some people are just flat out afraid of,
Yeah.
like,
Mm-hmm.
I'll show people stuff, like, you've seen the picture of the blue man at the fort.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've shown that to people, and I've literally had people go, I don't see anything. And I'm like,
What?
you don't see anything. They don't want to.
Right.
If I see it, then it's real, and it's standing outside my door.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's at the fort.
Yeah.
Well,
I saw that and I
They're
was like,
just afraid.
that's not real.
That's one of
But-
my questions is how you get people to overcome their fear. If people are coming in and they're afraid, how do you get that?
How do you empower them?
Yeah, well, how do you help them experience that without fear? Because
We haven't. I don't know that we've had a whole lot of people who are afraid.
I mean, there's people that
Necessarily.
are like,
Yeah.
jumpy or.
I heard you guys going,
Oh, yeah. I think when you get scared by something, whether it's like, I can tell you one time, my son Matt, who's on the team, when he was young, I was in the laundry room. Right next to us was next to our laundry room was the powder bathroom. And he was in there, standing in the dark, because he knew I was doing laundry, not paying attention. And all he did, as I was walking out of the laundry room, he just stepped forward purposely to scare me. I am looking straight at him, and I must have screamed my head off for like
Yeah.
and you knew it.
60
Well, that's
seconds.
right.
And I'm literally looking at him. And
Right.
but it caught me off
Right.
guard.
Uh-huh.
So, and of course, then we died laughing afterwards, and we still talk about it after all this time. But I think people are scared because they just don't know. They
Right.
don't understand what's happening. When people reach out to us, sometimes, they'll put in a long email what they're experiencing. And a lot of times I'll write back to them and go, okay, this is what I want you to do. I want you to write a journal and jot down who's home, the time of day, what the weather is, what you were doing, get all the nitty gritty details. And I want you to do that for like 2 weeks and see what happens. Because sometimes it's just, something stupid like house settling or whatever. But if you can kind of see if there's a pattern developing, then you can go, okay, maybe, you can go back and kind of define what's actually happening and try to explain it or not explain it. But I always encourage people just like keep track of what's going on, because sometimes it's just you're so afraid that it's going to be paranormal that you lose sight that it's really not paranormal. Is just me thinking it's paranormal. You psych yourself out basically.
Yeah.
So
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
Now let's all be sorry.
You better be.
We're all sorry. But I felt, we were in the basement, we felt of
The Sarah Miller house.
Yeah, the tunnel.
Oh, no,
Bellevue.
Bellevue.
Sorry. I'm
Bellevue.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was
Bellevue.
I was still in Samuel Miller.
Yeah, I still haven't processed all that. And we felt cold. And there were several of us
Right.
felt that, and then cold. Do you think that is the energy they're taking from us, or is it just the energy? Because we're all energy. So their energy and we're energy. Is that just an exchange of energy at that point?
Probably
or-
at some point. I mean, I can't tell you
But
exactly, but when if something's like pulling, heat is energy, and they're pulling that, then it's going to leave you feeling cold. So that's the.
Or did they
thought.
have cold energy
Yeah.
that you're feeling from
I
them?
don't know.
See, but then sometimes I've had experiences where I'm hot.
But that's
And that's
the
interesting.
redheaded guy
He
was
had
sitting
that
in the
too.
chair in the print shop, and he when we were singing, his hands got hot. He said it's really, really hot. My hands are sweating. It's so hot. So
but then you wonder, is that him internally taking
Yes.
in what's happening? Because when you're afraid, obviously your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up, your body temperature goes up.
Yeah.
So is that just his body reacting more to the what was happening at the time, like just his internal fear, or was it something, on a whole
Yeah, that's
other
that's
energy.
something, yeah, he would
Like
have
you,
to go.
you
No,
just
I
don't
was
know.
just
And then of course
thinking,
when you're in the basement, of course it's going to be cold and drafty down there. So that's when it's good to have
But
your
it's not drafty, that's.
Right,
the
that's
thing.
when you
Yeah,
have to.
exactly.
Right.
That's when you have to go
Yeah.
walk around. Go, what's the
Right.
temperature here? You know, with
Right.
your
Yeah.
thermal imager. And
I wish
try
we
to-
had that then, because we
Yeah.
were all experiencing it all at the same
Yeah.
time
And
simultaneously.
again, was it just somebody saying it's cold? Oh, yeah, I'm cold too.
cold.
Or,
You put that
you know,
mind, yeah,
Right,
put
it
that
gets
thought
in your
in
mind. Yeah, that's another thing.
But it was
No, but I
definitely cold. It wasn't
definitely-
It was, yeah.
I definitely I was like warm, and then the cold would pass through, and I'm wearing the leggings, so you feel that cold on
Right.
you because that
And
fabric.
I will say, I experienced that too when we were down there. Now we went like a week or so later and did a private investigation. There's only like 5 or 6 of us there. And it was on one of those nights when it's been windy for weeks now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so windy that night.
Oh
So you
my
couldn't
God, it was windy.
tell
Right.
if you were feeling cold because just
we couldn't.
the
It was
wind was
so
coming
cold.
through every crack of that house. So, but it wasn't windy that
Making
night.
the noise.
So I don't, and
Yeah,
I didn't
but then
experience that.
we were in the tunnel, and then we were like, okay, so we're gonna move out of
And
the
we
tunnel.
weren't even in the tunnel. We were like kind
'Cause
of
it's-
between
yeah,
the tunnel and the
We were
the,
outside the
the
entrance.
Yeah.
regular place.
and we were
in
getting
that.
it then too.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was absolutely. And then
Yeah.
I had a knock. We heard a knock.
Yeah, we heard
I
knocks.
have it
And then the
recorded.
cat ball went off.
The cat
right
ball
next
The
to
cat
us.
ball.
It's like, and
But not
Only
the
the
other
ones.
one next to
Yeah,
it.
there
It's
was one
just
cat ball
one.
that went off and the other one didn't. So.
And that was the harder one to get off because it was that like cement leg.
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
There were 2 cat balls there, and I was kind of leaning on it, and it went off, and so then I banged because
Yeah.
somebody was walking upstairs.
Stairs.
Yeah.
And I banged on the cement, and the other one went off, and not that one. So
Yeah.
and we
It-
kind of
yeah,
knocked around.
the one next to
Yeah.
you did, and then the other one. So
Uh-huh.
that was sort of
Yeah.
an interesting
Mhm.
experience. Do you ever go outside? Do you ever feel things outside? Well, the fort is kind of open, but I mean, as far as just around.
Yeah, we haven't
We
been
did-
able
actually,
to do
we did.
Bellevue,
We
but
stay-
the fort outside. We have experiences.
We stay
there.
every year. We go up to Balladary Inn up in Gettysburg, and we stay there for the weekend. And we do. Mostly, it's just a fun weekend. But we always, like Saturday night, we'll do investigations. And this year we went. It was warm. It was pretty warm, so we had a fire going and everything. We decided to set up all our equipment outside. We were literally outside in the the woods are out there and everything. And 3 of us decided we were going to go up to what we found out was the battlefield that we weren't supposed to be on. But
I wasn't there, but
Well,
the whole
Yeah.
the Balladary Inn is in the middle of the battlefield. I mean,
Really
it's
is.
technically, yeah.
Yeah.
the battlefield's like right across the street,
Yeah.
so they decided to
It's an
wander.
old Union
and
Field
just so you know, you're not
Balladary.
allowed to walk
Yeah, you're not
the
allowed to be
battlefield
there.
Yeah.
at Gettysburg at night
No.
after dusk.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
So
But
yeah,
we
no.
We didn't
We
think
didn't
we
know
were
that
in the
at the time.
battlefield until the police came.
It told us
Fortunately,
we
we
were in
were
the
off,
battlefield.
and they're like, at the funny part is the captain. He goes, "Hey, what's going on?" We're like, "We're watching deer and listening for ghosts." And he goes, "Oh, okay. Well, the battle, like,
He's
like
heard
we're
it
listening
all.
for ghosts." He's like, "Oh, you and everybody else."
Yeah, that's
But
very common.
all our equipment apparently was going off.
Yeah.
Like
At the-
things were moving through out in the woods there. So we're out in the
There's a house here in Delaware that we've investigated several times,
Oh.
and they are close to a cemetery. It's a lot of old houses around. Anyway, they experience stuff outside all the time. People see people walking.
literal people. She said I was gardening middle of the day. She said I turned around and there's an old man wearing overalls standing there right there. And she goes, and I looked and I was like, geez, who's that? And I looked back and there was nobody there.
Yeah,
She
and
goes, he literally just stand watching me.
and Debbie said that people walk this path like
Yeah.
between these houses and stuff, and she didn't see anybody, but she saw with her.
Psychic
Like,
abilities.
that was her interpretation. But somebody came. We had one of our investigators came, and he said when he pulled up, he saw somebody walking that path, and it was.
I
That was
I
it.
saw
And he
somebody right
didn't
across the
know.
street.
This was the second time we had investigated their house, and he didn't know that Debbie had said that. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
that was interesting. And then there was another place we did that literal cemetery in the backyard. Like his yard is like a little patch, and there's a fence, and people are buried there.
The
It was
cemetery
church and
backs
buried.
up
Who-
in
where-
old-
who
in
was
old-
that?
in
In
Newcastle.
Is that with the little elf guy?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
That was
Yeah.
weird.
Wait, what?
Which made me
There's an
think
elf?
of, made me think of when that one question. Yeah.
Yeah.
We
is
put
there
a
a
camera
guy
out there
that looks
because
like an
he's
elf or
seen
an
stuff
elf?
out
We
there.
don't
So
know.
it's other than spirits, there's different
We don't know. We have
Well,
some weird
we don't
thing
know what
with
There,
this
it's
was.
on
Zip
video. and
across,
it
and we
looks
just-
like a little tiny man.
Like a gnome?
Yeah.
Maybe.
We
We
call
could
it
see
the
the hat.
leprechaun.
But
We
he,
don't know.
he
Yeah.
runs across and he hides and then he pops out again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
it
were
was
trying to
explain
think of what it could be.
It was
it a
on
rabbit?
whatever it
didn't-
was. It was
didn't
on
appear-
high
It was, you could see it running.
Right.
He was walking
It was
The only,
upright.
the only
was
thing
small.
is, we thought the size and the 2 legs is maybe like a chicken, but it was too fast for a chicken. Like
And
chickens
it wasn't
are not
fat.
quite
It
that.
wasn't a.
It
Yeah.
wasn't.
a little.
It was
Yeah.
smaller
Looked like
than
a little
than
person.
a chicken.
It was
would
very, very weird.
But,
But, the house, the cemetery literally
be. Yeah,
backs
it's
up
back-
to his
it's
yard.
right-
And he
Yeah.
had a chain link
And
fence,
he's
so you
seen
can see
And he's
the
seen
cemetery.
stuff out there.
Yeah.
And he's
I think I know where you mean.
it was very
In Newcastle, yeah.
I
He
didn't
had just
see
moved in
anything,
there, I
but what we experienced was very just movement. Like in his house, it was like coming and going. So
Mhm.
just maybe harkens to a busier time there, and maybe because
Yeah.
of the cemetery. I don't know. I never really thought when going into this as being an investigator as cemeteries as being something that would be haunted. But
You don't
more
think it
I
was because they're like, well, nobody
experience-
dies in the cemetery.
Right, but the
Yeah,
more I experience,
have
I don't
that.
know
There's
if it's
energy in
because the cemeteries are near, like some of these cemeteries are near populations. You know, this is in the middle of a city. That one's near a lot of houses.
Yeah.
Or if it's just the cemeteries in general. We haven't done a lot of
Have
cemeteries.
you, have you been to the Reed House in Newcastle?
No.
I mean, I've been there, but not
Yeah.
to
Yeah, not to
investigate.
investigate.
Apparently
They don't let you
that's-
investigate anything in Newcastle, unfortunately.
Okay. I don't know, I
Yeah.
just had heard that was a place that had entities.
Yeah, there's probably.
And it probably is, but just Old
Yeah.
Newcastle's kind of tight about.
So portals are another thing that people see.
Yeah, I can't say we've actually encountered
I've
portals.
never-
I do believe, like, especially at Fort Delaware, you know, just because we say a place is haunted doesn't mean it's going to be nonstop activity 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Because they come in
300.
and out.
Right.
In and
And
out.
so, you know, we have in our 16 years of investigating there, we have ran into intelligent haunts. Like we've been able to have a conversation. And then there's other times when it seems very residual, you know, like,
It's just
And
footsteps
there's other
back
times
and
where literally
forth.
nothing.
and then there's times when it's just peaceful quiet.
Well, and
So-
that was Bellevue the last time. It was
Right.
absolutely nothing. And the last few
Yeah,
times we've been
right.
in Bellevue and even when you guys were there, it was very much more quiet than it has been for us in a long time.
Mhm.
I think it was the vibe of most of the people that were there.
Yeah,
For
That
the
is part of
experience.
it.
That could
I
be.
It
think
depends
so.
on some of the people that are coming.
Mhm.
it could be.
So
I know.
you guys can't come back there.
I
Sorry.
said, no, it wasn't us. We were the ones that had the experiences. No, everybody in our group, I felt like they were all very timid, except for the guy that was passing gas.
Oh, that
Oh, we heard about that.
That is the second time I have had a group of people in Bellevue where one guy.
Yes. Well, that's
was,
the.
I think it's Mo.
It was
not me,
Rockwood.
it's dude.
Rockwood for us. There was a gassy lady, and then that guy, and I was like, oh my
People
god.
are being quiet.
We
You
call
can't
it
hide
spirit
that stuff.
winds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
good name for it. But no, I can't say we've ever really, for sure, for certain, have seen a portal or have
Yeah,
had
I
an
don't know.
experience with
I've
a portal.
never.
Thanks for coming back to that.
Yeah,
I got way off topic.
Easily. It doesn't take
I've never
much to
even
get us off
thought about
topic.
it anywhere we've ever
No.
gone.
No.
And I've never had. I don't think we've ever had anybody go. I think there's a portal in my house. I don't.
Yeah,
I
no,
can't.
it's not something we.
The
No.
only place I've ever seen is on TV.
On
People
TV,
go,
yeah.
"Oh,
when
I mean,
portal."
portals
Even
to
then,
hell.
I'm going. I don't know. I don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So have you seen an increase in activity, or is it just people becoming more aware?
Of the, I think it's a
I think
combination.
I think it's TV has made people more aware.
Mm-hmm.
I just do.
Mhm.
When I was about 16 years old, my dad, we never talked about ghosts. There was never any like a.
Right.
Ooh, I wonder. When you're a kid, you always think, "Ooh, it'd be cool for a ghost," but you never
Mm-hmm.
never thought about it. My dad got up to get ready for work. He walked across to the bathroom, looked in the hall, and a man was walking down the hall with a hat on and just disappeared. And he told me that the next 4 nights I laid there with my eyes open. And a few weeks later, my mom was in the bathroom. She was the only one home, and somebody was just pounding on the bathroom door. I still never thought anything about it, other than, oh, maybe there's a ghost in the house. Never thought anything about it. And I was flipping channels. It was probably like 2009 or something. And I saw a thing that said Ghost Hunters. I'm like, what's that? And I watched, and I'm like,
Cool.
this is something people do? And from then on, that's what I think about. So I think,
It's a
TV, people are going, what do you mean they're
Yeah.
ghosts? They're
There's
ghosts everywhere.
also there's also like historically at times of like social or unrest.
Yes.
Like at the turn of the 1900s, the spiritualism movement and
Right.
everything.
Exactly.
And that was leading into World War I, and people lost a lot of loved ones in World War II, and so things like that. I get people going on it, but of course, social media and TV have really
We
pushed
also had the pandemic where people
Exactly.
Oh.
were
Yeah,
lost
Yeah, I
a
think
lot.
Exactly.
pandemic, people were home more.
Yeah.
And they realized that, oh, my house makes this
Yeah, wait a
weird
minute.
noise during the day.
Yeah.
What's that?
So I have an example of the attention you pay on to two things where you don't, like you may dismiss it. We went to buy a car one time and we were looking at a used car and there was this little car that we didn't really know anything about. And I don't know whether we wanted, so we test drove it and I don't know anything. I don't know anybody who owns this car. We drove it maybe a couple miles. We kept seeing that car. It just had never registered
Right.
with us before.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But once
And now
we
you
were
see it.
looking at it,
Then you see them
they're all
everywhere.
over the place.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm wondering.
So kind of like confirmation bias.
No, it's just not in your
Oh, yeah.
Right.
but
And
scope of
it's not in the
so
forefront of
maybe
your mind.
when you see a TV show that has this,
Yeah.
then you go, oh well, maybe this is what I've been ignoring.
Well,
You
it's
know what I
funny,
mean?
like even at when we first started doing the paranormal tours at Fort Delaware, the historians that were there at the time, there were some history snobs, right, amongst the historical interpreters because, you don't want to associate the paranormal with history, right? That's a big
In their
Which
eyes.
is where
in
it
their
comes
eyes,
from.
right? Which is a big
So
thing for
connected.
them.
That
And
Rockwood
so-
was like that for
Yeah,
us.
and so
wanted
when
to
we started
separate
doing
it.
the tours, yes, it was most definitely benefiting the fort that they all love and promoting history, but they were kind of standoffish. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them were kind of standoffish. This one particular gentleman, I remember, he was like, didn't really, kind of was not poo-pooing the tours, but he was like not a big believer. What he wanted you to think, and then as he got more involved, being at the fort with us during the tours and meeting the team and getting to know us and seeing our approach. One night he came to me and he's like, I have to tell you, I did have an experience here one time at the fort, and he told me what he experienced. Now again, it was a personal experience because it only happened to him. There was no, cameras or anything to back up what he was claiming, but I've noticed that the fort staff through the years have opened themselves up more to the paranormal than they probably would have before, because now they're seeing how we investigate, they're seeing how we approach the paranormal and the history, and I think they're realizing that they've had experiences, that they just didn't want to talk about, because especially among other historical interpreters, if one says, I got up there in the middle of the night, to use the restroom because they do their POW weekends, and saw, a spirit of a soldier on the second floor of the casemates, who's going to believe them, right? Because they're supposed to be purely history. So I think over time, people are opening up and
So
having more
there's
of an
not
open mind.
necessarily more paranormal activity. It's just that people
Are
are
acknowledging it. I mean, we still have, there's interpreters that
I
say,
think with some people too, like you said, with our approach, and this goes to like science versus pseudoscience stuff. Like the things, it's really hard to investigate the paranormal and convince a true scientific-minded skeptic that anything's going on, right?
Right.
Because, like I said before, I just don't think that we have made the exact tools
right.
to prove anything, and,
Right.
and we might not ever. But
I feel like we're getting there.
but I think with more like with audio coming and video and pictures and stuff, and being able to tell what's been photoshopped and not, because you can.
Yeah.
I think that brings a little more people into the possible realm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I
You
think.
know?
Yeah, I agree. I think
Mhm.
as technology improves, because it's changed even quite a bit from when I started in 2009.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think as technology improves
Mhm.
over time,
Yeah.
eventually the unseen is going to become seen because the technology's
Right.
improved to that point.
And I think
UFOs, no, they don't exist.
Right.
Yeah, no,
And
they do.
now-
Look at
oh,
all
guess
now
what?
finally
The
we got-
government's
we got all
like,
the-
yeah, they're here.
Pentagon
Here's
just
all the
told us
evidence
it's
that we-
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we see them. I mean, and now like all these guys that are in
People
the
thought you were
military
nuts.
that have seen those
Yes.
things all the time feel like, okay, well now I
Yeah,
can tell
finally.
people.
The
You know?
parents
Oh,
tell you.
oh yeah, we see stuff like that all the
But
time.
near-death experiences have been the same type
Mhm.
of thing,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
people have
Yeah.
been
Mhm.
coming back and afraid to say anything because people
Mhm.
are like,
Right.
Uh-huh.
but now that
It's very
That's-
taboo.
Yeah.
now
Very
it's
Yeah,
more
everybody's
common.
afraid that people are going to think
People
they're
are-
crazy.
But
So.
the
Like, we don't walk around going, hey, people in the store, I'm a ghost hunter.
yeah.
Like, we don't do,
I'm
still do
starting
it.
to. I'm like, I'll go up to people and be like, "Do you have ghost stories? 'Cause I'm on a podcast. I want your.
I'm still a
When you're
little
still like-
hesitant because I said, well, what do you do? Well, we've been doing a podcast, and,
No,
you know,
just gotta say
and
it.
People
then
bring it up first. Hey,
and people,
Oh, God.
Yeah.
people,
say it.
people respond, oh, that so it's
Yeah.
not as taboo. as-
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't
It's
tell
everywhere.
people that I'm a paranormal investigator.
Mhm.
If you find out I am and you approach me about it, I'll share my experiences.
Or
But
people
my
ask,
coworkers
Yeah, I don't
people
want to know
talk
that.
about it. Like I've
Well,
had
like yesterday, I went
conversations
to
like,
see
yeah,
Ghostbusters yesterday, and there's a group
how
called
is it?
Diamond State Ghostbusters,
Man, they
which
have
is
a
a
color.
little close to us.
Yeah, really.
But they just dress up as Ghostbusters, and they go to like they were all at the movie theater, set up, had a whole setup at her, and my wife's like, "Oh, you should go tell them." I'm like, "No, what do they care? Well, I'm not gonna go. Hey, I'm Diamond State Ghost Investigator." They'll be like, "Okay."
It's okay. I know.
Really
I
good
kind of
thing.
peripherally know one of them,
Yeah.
so I'll tell her to listen to this podcast. She's the redhead.
Get a shout out.
But I did the
you know,
same
I
thing.
just
I
don't go
saw
to
that was
people.
so close to you guys, and I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, I'm not
We were
sure
like,
why they picked
what?
Diamond State. Like, they could have done First State, they could have done Mid-Atlantic, but I can tell you, when you Google Diamond State Ghostbusters, Diamond State
We
Ghost
show up.
Investigators comes up first.
Yes.
So,
Oh, well, that's good.
yeah. It's the only thing that
Except when they
matters to
call
me.
them and they go, "Hey, my house is on. Can you come investigate?" They'll be like,
No. I can bring my
what?
proton pack.
I got a car."
So you do say that you have are trained investigators, and I don't know what that means. How do you feel like, what kind of training makes you trained investigator?
Well, I think
Well,
just
we-
experience.
Yeah,
doing
more-
that.
we trained ourselves.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
it's
basically how it started. It was like,
Honestly, it's just.
I learned
yeah.
from them, and I
Yeah.
learned from TV. Like I watch the ghost shows, not all of them, but I just watch them basically because I want to see some evidence.
yeah.
But I also want to learn like
anything
things
new.
that they do. I'm like, oh, that's a
Yeah.
cool thing to like the Estes method.
Right.
Like I
Yes.
never heard of that until I saw it on TV. Now
Yeah.
we've done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it works great.
Yeah.
So that's
Right. I mean, and you have like, that's a great place to look for that kind of stuff online, social media, where you can find people trying new things.
Trying new
Mhm.
equipment.
I think the
right.
Newkirks, Greg and Dana,
Yeah.
they are doing some amazing stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And combining her spirituality
Mhm.
with the scientific stuff
Yeah.
too. Like,
And I don't think there's anything wrong
Awesome.
with that.
shout out Greg Dana.
Because a lot of people, and it's funny because she has this spirituality and he has this.
He
grew up
minister's
like
son.
Pentecostal or
Yeah.
something, and he's like,
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think because I think there's something to it. We don't know that link, that scientific link that would bring the skeptics in, because they're not going to go anywhere. Like we don't use on an official, like you've been to Fort Worth and people get dowsing rods and stuff.
Yeah.
But we don't use, like, that's
We don't
not
use
any,
that.
if we're presenting to a client that we investigate their house, we don't
We're not gonna
We
bring
don't
it
even
up.
use it.
We don't. Oh, the
Yeah.
dowsing rod's crossed, so you definitely have those.
the
We
public
don't use
investigations are harder because
Yeah.
people
You
are
need-
coming over.
you need
They
tangible
want,
things.
they spent good money on their ticket. They're there for a limited amount of time, and they want to see
And
it.
I don't think there's anything wrong with dowsing rods. It's
Right.
just
I've
not.
seen them, I've had them work well. but also
Absolutely, absolutely.
spin around like
It's
crazy.
there's too much variables with dowsing
Yeah,
rods
Right.
to,
Energy is not
yeah.
predictable.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
it's not.
They're,
I'm not sold on them
they're-
personally.
They're
Yeah.
a great thing for the
Yeah.
public, or
Yeah.
we've used them.
Oh, yeah, we've
It's
used
not
them.
something we put in an official
don't.
report.
Yeah,
And we don't actually use them in any investigations other than for.
yeah.
With dowsing rods for me, I was given a pair for my birthday, and so I was like, okay, but I used it in my mediumship way, like I was
Uh-huh.
talking to my spirit guides or whatever,
Right.
of my higher self, whatever you would say, and so I was getting questions, answering questions in that.
Like
kind
you
of,
weren't talking out loud, just
It's I could.
Just
They
in
would
your head.
start going before I even finished the question.
The only thing
in
with
my
dowsing
head.
rods is we one time built a little device to put the
hold
dowsing
them
rods in
Yes.
to hold them. They didn't move.
No, you
right.
need
But I
hands.
think
But
they
if
need
you
your
hold
energy.
them,
You've got
they,
the energy.
you got the energy there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm
We've
still
talked
out on
about
that.
doing
Yeah,
that kind of an Estes dowsing
Yeah.
rods thing
Yeah.
where you're, noise
Yes.
canceling.
yeah.
and
We
you
definitely
wanna
need to
hold it. We need to
experiment
do
more
that.
with that.
Hi.
Yeah.
So-
Yes, I get There good you go. results.
Yeah.
with
We got
Estes.
pretty good ones at Debbie's place.
Yeah, Debbie does.
When you were
some.
doing it, you were
Yeah.
saying that we were asking questions, you were answering. I was like,
Yeah.
We were dueling. We were doing
did that
dueling
at
at the Samuel
Samuel.
Miller.
Okay.
She was Morgan was upstairs and I was downstairs, and I could hear her voice in the static. She was saying like, "Help me." There were like I could hear her
Okay,
voice
yeah.
specifically, and I'm like, I like had to stop the session. I was like, "Can you call up and make sure she's okay?"
Yeah.
Because I know that she was so wide open, and I didn't want anything harming her.
Right.
And this was
And
after
this
the
was-
experience in the basement.
Yes.
Yeah.
So-
Okay. Yeah.
And I was like, and I heard your voice, and so there's a mimic there that was coming through.
Oh, I'm.
Yeah, we've heard
yeah,
that.
we've
We've
heard
had
that there
those
before.
yes.
But yeah, no, I think the
Interesting.
dowsing rods are interesting,
Yeah.
but I think there's a whole
They're
lot
not
more
scientific.
work.
But
that
yeah,
needs
but
to
if
be
you're
done.
if you're
They're not.
presenting like, okay, it's not anything concrete, and that goes along with the Ouija board. I'm like full. I don't think it's got this stigma
Yeah.
because of The Exorcist.
Yes.
I don't
Yeah,
buy into
I
any
mean,
of that.
yeah,
I mean, I've used one before.
Mm-hmm.
Before I was ever involved in any of this, when I was a kid and that thing moved and it freaked me out, I was like, who's moving it? Nobody was moving it. That whole
Yeah.
thing.
But you never have that confirmation that somebody isn't messing with you.
Right.
Because I messed with my cousin. when I
Yeah,
was young.
exactly. But
I mean, but yeah, and like you said, it was
Oh.
definitely a stigma, and
Right,
I remember my
it's
niece
a-
asking for one
but
for
I
her
think
birthday.
it
We were
works
like, oh
similar.
no,
Yeah,
You're not
I think
stay
it
away
works
from it at all.
similarly to dowsing rods.
Right.
I don't think like there's still this thing. Oh, don't use the Ouija board. Don't
Yeah.
use it. I'm like, if you like you were
It's
talking about being
divination
open,
tools
right?
as opposed to K2 EMF,
Exactly.
Right.
REM pods, actual
Yeah.
like those tangible things that you can hear the
Right.
beep,
Uh-huh.
you see the
Measurable.
fluctuation. Yes.
Measurable.
Exactly.
we know
So
there's
that's
no
what.
power and something's not supposed to go off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It should never
Right.
go off. We get
Yes.
no power. It should never go off,
Right.
and they go off. So
Right,
Yeah,
yeah, so,
something
so what
measurable.
will you consider verifiable data is when you have more than one person have the same experience and the same
That's
location.
that's
you-
a good way.
Yeah.
audio, visual, you
Visual.
catch it on camera. It's very, 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 very hard to capture
oh
actual
my God, it's
paranormal
personal experiences are great, but
activity
they don't.
on camera.
They're not proof of
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
Now,
I
like,
can
like
see
you said,
something
if
that
somebody
nobody else
has,
happened to see.
So we had an experience in a house where we were using the SLS. I had recording going, and so a couple of different things happened. That he felt he was using that SLS is like big and bulky, and we had figures on there. He kept moving it to make sure it wasn't something else registering the
You're
figures.
talking about the stick.
Mhm.
the stick
Yeah.
figures.
Yeah, so there
Yeah.
was like an adult, it looked like an adult and a child, and they come back and the child was like almost peeking out from behind them,
Right.
the parent, I'm assuming. But anyways, and as we were talking, the child's peeking out, he feels So he's holding it and he feels it shake. He freaks out. So I have his freak out on video, and at the same exact time that he got shook on my audio, which I was listening to it, I was listening to it real time. At the same time, the weird audio interference at that exact same time that didn't happen at any other time, it still wouldn't be enough for the scientific community.
Right.
I mean, for us who were there and the homeowners,
That was
it's compelling because it
Right.
coincides with stuff
Mhm.
they've experienced. But
Hmm.
you know,
But
it's
then we had
just
the laser grid in that same room.
that
Debbie
that's
and I
the
were
same
down
thing,
in the
and that's on
basement.
our
It's on our website.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and
awesome.
The laser
I
grid video.
was looking at the floor. We had a camera set up,
Mhm.
and I look down and I see what kind of looks like little footprints going through the laser grid. And Debbie immediately goes, "Are you seeing this?"
And it's blocking. If you
It's
look at
blocking
it,
the
it's
laser, it's just
blocking
black.
the
It's
laser.
You'll have to go to our website and see it.
so. This went on for 10 minutes. Come back. Debbie's talking to it because we think there's a little kid in there. It would come back. It would go around the corner. It would move. And then I thought, well, what if this camera's not picking this up? So I pulled out my phone, hoping, and it showed up on the phone like you can't believe. So I filmed it, but the whole time I'm filming, I'm like, people still aren't going to believe this.
Yes.
Mhm.
Because my first thought was it was a mouse, so I did the flashlight. There was nothing there.
Yeah.
So I thought, while on camera, I'm going to turn the flashlight on for the people who aren't going to believe. And I showed there is nothing on the floor. The
Yeah.
second I turned it off, the
You
little
can see
feet
it
ran away.
like run away.
And I'm like, it's right there for everybody to look at. You
Yeah.
can see
Yeah.
that there is nothing. It's not
The
fake.
thing about that too is like when you walk through a laser, it's on you.
Yeah.
Like
So
you
it
see the
moves with
disruption,
you.
you see movement, but but the laser grid. This
still
was
there.
actually
Yes. It's
blocking
blocked
out
out the light.
the light.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's
I
on,
haven't
if you
seen
go
that one.
onto our
Yeah.
website, it's
Yeah.
the evidence vault.
Yeah.
It's on there.
Because I've looked at some of the stuff, but I haven't
Yeah, you have to look
deep
at that
dive.
one.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So which do you think, what's the most reliable piece of equipment to you? Do you think the EMF meters? How about the temperature?
Probably, well, definitely the EDI, because that's the most
Yeah.
secure
It
as
has
far you
EMF, it has vibration, it
Yeah.
has temperature,
and it's so
it has,
well protected.
Mhm.
Like phones can't set it off.
Yeah.
Like that's
Right.
when we,
Okay.
like when you're doing investigation, especially at the court, we'll say, put your phones on airplane mode because it'll affect the K2 meters. And,
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
but the
personally-
EDI phones
I
don't
like
set
the
it off.
digital
What does that look
recorder.
like?
It looks
It's
like,
like a little box.
that just sits up. And
yeah,
it's got orange numbers and little lights.
Okay.
It's just a.
Okay. Yes. Okay. That's what.
Yeah,
it's
it
a
does
data.
have
So
like
yeah,
a
it's
data-
basically,
That was in the print shop.
it's basically
Yeah.
a data logger.
It's
So
also
you
in
can
the
put a
basement.
little SD card in there, and
Okay.
it will record the
Yeah.
fluctuations and stuff.
Mhm.
And if you can capture on the SD card, the fluctuations of temperature or whatever EMF, and you also have a camera there and audio to kind of back that up,
yeah.
then it's pretty compelling.
Then you consider
Uh-huh.
that verifiable.
And that's
data.
something we talk about. We need more of those.
I know.
Yeah,
I
that
know.
was, we
Okay.
had that, there was one set up in the basement.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
what other room? And it really dropped. It was,
The print shop in the basement. That was.
yeah.
The
That's all I
EDI,
had.
actually, I used it at the Painter Building at Fort DuPont, down in their basement. We had broken into smaller groups, and the group that was in the basement before us, within the team, because there was like 3 levels that we investigated for. I can't even
Well,
remember, 4
basically-
levels.
And 3, yeah.
Yeah, and so
Four
it was
levels.
this building is just massive. And so we broke out into smaller groups. So we investigated each area level, probably 45 minutes to an hour. And my little group, we were getting ready to head down to the basement, and the other group of our team members that were coming out of the basement, we also don't share with each other what we experience in a location when the next group's going in, because we want them to have their own
Yeah.
experience. So we were heading down there, and they were like, the only thing we're going to tell you guys is just kind of pay attention to this section of the basement. And so we set up the EDI on the floor, and it was myself, Debbie, and Fred on our team. And Debbie had picked up earlier like a maintenance man still down there, kind of still working in the building. And so we were asking questions, and we asked him to change the temperature of the EDI for our questions. So, we started out, it was hot, it was summertime. So, in the basement, it probably was like 78, 79 degrees. And I would ask a question, and I'm like, if your answer is yes, please drop the temperature down on this device down 2 degrees. We actually got that to drop down 10 degrees. The temperature in the room did not change. And we just that based on
manipulating
yeah, right. And then we got it to raise it back up 10 degrees. Wow. So we were definitely getting intelligent responses by manipulating the energy in that room. Whoever it was this maintenance man or somebody else was somehow, energy wise changing the temperature on that EDI, even though the temperature in the room, it wasn't any cooler or hotter, but it was responding appropriately to our questions. And
that's cool.
That was very interesting.
Yeah, I remember where the other one was. It was in the children's room. And I went in there while you were setting up for Estes, and I sat on the bed next to the redheaded guy that we can't remember his name, and I'm so sorry I should
Please
know.
call in if you know what your name is.
and this was before he had, but I was in there briefly, and the temperature in that room changed like several degrees.
We had activity on that bed because remember we set up the 2 flashlights.
Yeah,
for
that's
torching?
where the flashlights were when we were in that room.
And I had my static dome there.
And
Well,
they
that's
had
where
a
we got the
flashlight
note.
go off
Yeah,
on the
And that's where they got that.
Amy was doing that. She was the owner. Amy was doing that with the flashlight on the floor too.
They did have a flashlight go off.
Yeah, but like I said, the flashlights are
I'm so sad.
because they can be affected
Yeah,
by
they're
the ambient temperature and like the humidity and everything. But they were going both
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
and both off
Off.
at the same time.
Yeah.
So that to me is, again, not necessarily scientific. And people have disproved the flashlight in that it will move because of temperature changes and
Yeah.
humidity and all that kind of stuff. But when you see it and you ask a question and they, 2 of them turn on.
Yeah,
they
get
do,
very
yeah.
And then you
specific.
ask another question and 2 of them turn off. It's a little bit,
Right.
you gotta.
Or those cat balls, like
Yeah, the
one
cat
went
balls.
off.
They don't.
The
The
other
one
one
right
didn't.
next to it didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like who friggin' knew a cat ball?
Yeah,
I
exactly.
know.
Right, who started that?
Exactly. Like what kind of like?
Everywhere we
cat
go
balls,
now,
I'm
we're
like-
like gathering cat
Who's
balls.
got cat balls? Right?
It was like we went when we went back to Bellevue for our private. We went into the trophy room, and I'm like, "We're leaving." That was like the last place we went. We're leaving, and I go, "Whose cat ball on the mantle?" And nobody put a cat ball there. I said, "I guess we left it."
Probably
Last
from the
time,
public
yeah.
investigation.
It might have been mine.
Yeah.
Could be.
That's funny.
If you're
Yeah.
missing a cat ball, let me know.
Yeah.
So what location would you say is like the top all-time location?
Trans-Allegheny.
That we went to.
Allegheny.
That we've done.
Trans-Allegheny.
Have you ever done Fort Mifflin?
Yes.
Yes, it's
Uh-huh.
very
How about that?
loud.
Is
It's
it?
Well, the
yeah,
planes
part
are
of the
literally
planes are right there.
8 feet over your head
Yeah.
all night
I mean,
long.
we've
So
had
we had
we've had stuff happen there.
Oh, yeah,
we've
we
had
had stuff.
some EVPs and stuff there, but
Yeah,
it's
we were
with
here.
the-
We were
the
here.
airplanes
still,
are flying
but
in
the airplanes
literally
are just
every minute.
Non-stop,
Yeah.
right
Oh, yeah.
over your. You
Yeah.
can touch
So
them as
most
they
of
go
your
by.
audio is contaminated.
Yeah.
It's like,
So
oh,
Trans-Allegheny is
Lunatic
what?
the
asylum.
lunatic
So-
asylum in
I just got
West
chills
Virginia.
Western
thinking
Virginia
about that
and-
place.
and-
Oh,
Trans-Allegheny.
Is that the creeper? Is there a
Yes.
creeper there?
So
Okay.
Trans-Allegheny.
She's not going.
oh,
She's like tapped out. I'm done.
Trans-Allegheny, I think is they said the second largest stone
Yes.
building next
it's
to
a
the
quarter of a
Kremlin.
mile long.
Yes,
The hallways
next
are
to
a
the
quarter
Kremlin.
mile
Four
So it's
floors,
all
quarter mile long that were.
that. There's another thing that's a theory. Is
The
that
stone
the
tape
stone tape theory and
theory,
everything.
yeah.
So that place is just all stone and
It,
Oh,
sections
my
of it
God.
from the Civil War. There was a TB part of it. You know, for those who had TB, you literally could be admitted there for anything.
For your period.
Yeah, literally.
Literally,
No.
there's a
There's
list.
yes.
Hysteria.
There's a
Hysteria,
list
Yeah, you
on there
dropped the
that
wife
what
off.
people
and-
were dropped off for, and you're like,
Yes,
My
like,
wife
she was
being a-
angry at her husband and
Yeah.
dropped her off. I'm like, what?
I would have been so fast put there.
but they also say that like you couldn't be, you couldn't get discharged out of there unless the person who put you in there
Yeah,
took
back
you
in the
out
day.
back
They
in
were
the
driving
day.
away.
So if that person passed away, you were kind of up.
That
But we
happened, I think,
went
in
to-
a lot of institutions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Members.
Back in the day, yeah, that's how it was. Whoever
But
was in charge of it.
Trans-Allegheny, we investigated privately overnight. We got there. I think our start time was 9. We actually got
We
there at
started early.
8:30 because we were so excited. And then our investigation was supposed to be ending at 5:30, and at 5 a.m. they're like, "Okay, you guys need to leave." We're like, "What? We still want to
We
investigate."
could have gone another 12
It was
hours.
We were all-
insanely.
It was
It's crazy.
nonstop.
Thanks for listening to Only Ghosts in the Building. If you have any write-in stories that you would like us to read on air, please write us an email at onlyghostsinthebuilding@gmail.com, or you can send us a DM on our Instagram page at Only Ghosts in the Building, or on Facebook at Only Ghosts in the Building. We also have started our Patreon page, so go to patreon.com/Only Ghosts in the Building, no spaces between, or you can search Only Ghosts in the Building, no spaces between, and come join. It's free, or there are going to be a couple of pay monthly options, but you will get all your episodes ad-free there, and I will be posting a little bit more behind the scenes, or all the evidence that we collect will be posted there as well. So please come and join the fun. We will see you soon.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.